What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm back at it to bring you 40 facts from the Warhammer 40k universe. This time, I have a story to tell you guys. So one of you awesome laddies gave me a link to a 40k online page for a awesome Slaaneshi themed story. So this story was written by Dead Dude Walking, and the tale is named In Fulgrim's Name, a Slaanesh short story. And it's pretty cool. Now, he's not the best, writer, so to speak, but it still gives you an awesome, an awesome environment as to being on the battlefield next to a Slaanesh worshipping Emperor's child who has now given himself to chaos. Really awesome stuff. Now, the images that you see here, most of them are from a DeviantArt user named Slaanesh G. So if you guys want some commissions or if you want to check out more of his artwork, I'll leave the description down below as well as a description to the story so you guys can read it on your own. So guys, grab your lube and get ready for this Slaaneshi tale. Fear not the servants of the false emperor, my brothers. Advance. Thanor screamed this, rousing his squad. They all roared in freakish delight and leapt from the cover of their artillery made hole. Their enemies, the vaunted Raven Guard, stood nearly 30 feet away. To victory! For Fulgrim, for Slaanesh! Thanor tore off towards them, bolter shells whizzing towards him and his men. 5 men trailed behind him, all equipped with sonic weaponry. He carried a bolt pistol and a power sword, in the shape of a vicious saber. Battle raged around him as guardsmen and space marine battled the Emperor's children and their heretic guard. First one to slay one of the fools will have my finest slave. They all yelled in delight, and the next second clashed with the frantic marines. They had long since drawn combat knives and the battle had begun. The sergeant of the marines brought a crackling power fist towards him. However, Thanor was far too quick and he easily leapt out of the way. He roared upward and drove his blade into a marine's power armor, easily cutting through the ceramite. Blood spilled from the man's stomach, staining the ground red. The next second, Thanor decapitated a flailing marine, sending his head flying into a trench. His fellow traitors cried in ecstasy as they slaughtered the Emperor's finest, taking the most extreme pleasure in this slaughter. They were the veterans of countless battles, easily outmatching their enemies. Their sergeant fell last, though, quickly as Thanor brought his bolt pistol to the man's unguarded face and fired a shot into it. His head came apart in a beautiful show of gore. Thanor laughed hideously and looked onward. 20 yards ahead of him lay a trench, filled with guardsmen, frantically firing at cultists charging towards them. The perfect meat shields for his corrupted brethren. To me, my brothers, nobody walks away. They charged the trench, screaming their battle cries. Just as the last of the cultists fell at the trench line, they came right behind, roaring with glee akin to a child with a new toy. Before any of the guardsmen could even utter a prayer to the Emperor, they were already wading into the trench, slaughtered like lambs. Noise weaponry sounded off. It was unlike anything the guardsmen had ever heard, shattering eardrums and popping heads like watermelons. Such was worsened by the close quarters of the trench. Thanor was still using his power sword, cutting through the ranks of the guardsmen. Every blow he struck was a fatal one, severing his opponent in half or decapitating them in a furious, deadly slash. Soon the trench was stained red with blood. It took them little less than a minute to clear this trench. Instantly, cultists began to leap over the first line of defense and run towards the second trench. Many were gunned down, but finally some organization had been found in their ranks. As Thanor crawled onto the surface, he looked back to see, possibly 100 yards back, several traitor Leman Russes thundering into position. He could not help but grin at this sight. Soon the deafening rounds fired from the Leman Russes into the air. A traitor Marine approached him. The Marine bowed before saying, "Truly this has been a glorious slaughter, almighty Thanor. Fulgrim surely smiles upon us today." Thanor grinned. "Yes, my brother, the wicked pain and fear we have brought with us here not only pleases Fulgrim, but Slaaneshi. And it is by Slaaneshi that we gain our purpose and our power." Thanor turned his head towards the trench. His face was scarred beyond what many a mortal man would deem possible, partly because of battle and partly because of his own design. A large amount of his face was mercifully covered. The helmet covered his mouth, most of his face, and then ran up to the top of his head, connecting the back of his power armor. His hair had long since fallen off to reveal a scalp that was equally mutated. His tongue was cut to resemble that of a snake's. Wherever he looked, ancient eyes stared endlessly. His armor was black with pink on the shoulder pads and ankles. He had the skin from a child's stomach stretched over his left shoulder, with several markings on it. Each time he committed an act that he found particularly sadistic, he would make a small nick upon the skin. In a matter of minutes, the traitor Russes had driven over the first trench and towards the second one, blasting it apart. The vehicles of the guard had long since been demolished, and the only rear threat now that remained was several Raven Guard. Why were they here mattered not. All that mattered was that he got the chance to slay some more. "My brothers, let us continue our slaughter to the Imperial City." It would be quite a trek, but Thanor was determined to make it before the cultists. He would wait for the Russes to clear the last of Imperial defenses before laying waste to the city bare. This was too easy. He was on his own now. His squad had split up at one point to pursue their intended targets. Thanor had been tracking down the remaining Marines in the city for a little over an hour, and he sensed completion of the objective that was near. They may have been the Emperor's finest, but they were indeed no match for a being who had participated in the siege of Terra 10 millennia ago. As he battled on, he found himself approaching a temple dedicated to the Emperor. It seemed that the Marines were determined to make their final stand at a worship site dedicated to their corpse ruler. Thanor would slay them and defile the temple. A smile spread across his face. He indeed had some ideas. The temple was tall. He estimated nearly 200 feet. On the temple's top stood a statue of the Emperor, a sword in one hand. Thanor's grin turned into a scowl that would incinerate a Titan legion. He would rip the statue from its foundations and piss blood on its shattered remains. Stairs rose all the way to the temple to the top. On the way, he almost casually battled the Marines, cutting them down. Every once in a while, one would get lucky with a knife and slip past his guard. He would howl in ecstasy when this happened, as his pain coursed through his veins. As what seemed to be the last Marine falling, he stood some 20 feet from the top. Exactly 27 Marines had fallen by his hand, and surely more had been killed by his brothers. As he stood, gazing at the statue of the corpse Emperor, it was almost his last mistake. A Marine sergeant burst from behind this statue, wielding a bolter. He fired into the Chaos Champion. 2 bolter rounds hit him and unzipped his stomach, causing his guts to pour out onto the temple stairs. The third hit him in his left arm. He fell to his knees, gritting his teeth with the exquisite pain. It was beyond anything he had ever experienced. It was a temporary nirvana. He moaned in horrific pleasure as his lifeblood coursed out of his body. The Marine spoke. "Traitor, you have slain many a battle brother today. We will fall, but we will always be remembered as the Emperor's finest. You will be remembered as nothing but the Thanor screamed. The scream could be heard for miles around, and instantly upon hearing it, one knew it was not from this world. The Marine, who had been a mere second away from dealing Thanor's death, faltered. Despite being in such a terrible state, he almost casually hefted his power sword up and launched it at the Marine. It collided into his chest, impaling the Marine. A soft gurgle emitted from his throat as blood erupted from the wound. He stumbled back slowly, then with more speed than before, and he finally tumbled off of the temple. Thanor laughed wickedly as he saw the Marine's body disappear. Thanor grabbed his guts and stuffed them the best he could back into his stomach. This pain was indeed intense, and it was possibly the most pleasurable thing that he had ever experienced. Nothing he had felt ever before quite equated to it. He had participated in countless debaucheries in and out of the Eye of Terror, but a near-death experience such as this brought in a rush he had not felt for millennia. Thanor slowly rose to his feet and walked to the statue of the Emperor. Each step brought a mixed wave of agony and pleasure. He finally reached the oh-so-worshipped statue of the Emperor, and without a second thought, he raised his bolt pistol and emptied it upon it. The statue was simply not made to withstand bolter fire. Each time the bolter was fired, a large chunk of the stone was removed, and soon all that was left was rubble. Thanor could do nothing but stare at the remnants, and then he smiled. He did that often, smiling. "I swear on Fulgrim, I could piss blood on your precious idol, corpse god, but it's not worth this trouble." Thanor threw back his head and laughed, a horrific sound that could be heard for miles. Around him, the city burned. And that brings us to the end of this short story by Dead Dude Walkin'. Again, guys, I'll leave the link to his story in the description below, as well as the link to these amazing pictures. Like, oh man, this Slaaneshi stuff is just so amazing. Slaanesh G on DeviantArt, he's got some awesome pictures on there, and it's like, whenever I'm doing a video about Slaanesh, I'm always like second guessing myself as to like what's too much for YouTube. Because you know, Slaanesh loves curves, so to speak. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys thought about this short story. My question to you is, if you were in Thanor's position, would you try to summon demons, or would you just leave it up to the cultists to kind of be the fodder for your Chaos Space Marine army? Now, in my opinion, I'd summon those demons because demons are unorthodox. They're gonna scare the living poop out of all these people. So I'll use them as like scare tactics and basically as like a first wave of terror to kind of instill fear into my enemies, and then I'll systematically take them down with my Chaos Space Marines. That's just me. What would you guys do? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to check out these two guys, and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Patreon. We post each and every day. And that's all I got for you guys. As always, I'm the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.